Today's strip project, going to show you how we're going to take this finish off, this vintage finish off this couch frame using QCS. Let's get started. I'm just going to spray apply the QCS. I'm actually using QCS that we've captured from runoff. So it's dirty. You'll see it's kind of a brownish color. That's because QCS can be reused over and over again. It's really nice for that reason. If you can capture the runoff, you can reuse it. We just let it settle so that the solids that sometimes you scrape off, or the mess that kind of gets in with the finish or with the stripper, you can actually let that settle to the bottom and then pour off the top. But you'll see here the bottle is sort of brown colored inside. That's because it's old. So we've reused this multiple times over, which is a big plus about QCS. It keeps working and it doesn't evaporate. Okay, so I've gone ahead and got this whole sofa frame soaked down. Just gave it a good mist. Got it wet. Gonna let this let the QCS work now. Just let it sit for 15 minutes to 30 minutes roughly. It'll vary. We put on our instructions 15 minutes. We may change that to 30 just to give it more time. Sometimes that first 15 isn't enough to really do too much. So give it enough time. It's the kind of product that it's going to take a little extra time to work, but it's going to do all the work for you. So I can just walk away now, let this sit. QCS doesn't really dry or evaporate very much. If it starts to disappear or look like it's drying, it's more than likely just soaking into the finish and kind of dissolving the finish. So it looks like it may not be on the surface, but it's kind of cutting in, which is good. So don't be deceived by that, but you definitely want to keep it wet. So I would coat it a few times. Again, let the product do the work, not your labor time. So coat it a few times, let it work, and it should come off really easily once it's done its thing. All right, once you've given it a little bit of time, it's been about 30 minutes I've given it. I already tested here. I cheated a little bit. I tested there just to make sure. But all you're going to do is just take your putty knife and give it kind of a test scrape, and it's coming off nicely. Now, this is kind of a thick finish on here. It's sort of a thick, you can see there, it's kind of a thick molasses sort of consistency, and it's not going to come off perfect, but I would recommend going around and on sort of the flat areas carefully, maybe scraping like the panels just gently. You're not trying to get all of it off, so don't try to dig in and gouge the wood. Just kind of skim the surface, get off what does come off, and then what that'll do is enable you to, when you go to scrubbing, you're not fighting so much finish while you're scrubbing. So it's just a recommendation. You don't have to. You can go right to scrubbing if you want, dip and scrub. That'll work too, but that'll just give you, it'll get some of the thickness off and allow you to just scrub a little bit easier. All right guys, back at this sofa frame, and I just wanted to show you one thing about QCS. So I was working on some other projects and just letting this sit, and I just want to show you that what happens is that sometimes as it's sitting, it just sort of not re-solidifies, but it just sort of gets kind of thick again. It'll still come off, like you can see it's coming off, but it's just sort of thick again. The QCS and the finish sort of re-solidify. That's almost down to bare wood there. But what I'm going to do is just wet it again, and I'm going to give it a scrub now and see what it does. Now I mentioned you could use a putty knife and go over it that way. I'm just going to go right to sort of a scrubbing, because I think that's going to loosen up and help to get the finish off a little easier. All right guys, just wanted to show you, this is the finish. You can see how it's just really, getting the light here, you can see how it's just all like mushy now. These some of the Scandinavian pieces, they just have a really thick, like catalyzed finish on them. Very hard to get off, lounge chairs and such. This ended up having that. I thought it would be sort of just a really basic nitrocellulose lacquer. It ended up being a much thicker finish, so it is coming off. It just took more product than I had anticipated, which is common with this finish. This finish is very thick. And then I know I said in the last clip, I wasn't gonna scrape, but I am scraping because it's so thick. I was trying to scrub it and I just wasn't really getting anywhere. So I wet it really good, saturated it, and now I'm just getting off all that heavy stuff. And so now that's down pretty much to bare wood, and this can be scrubbed, and that will come out much cleaner. So that's the approach I'm taking. All right, just wanted to show you an update on this couch frame. It's coming out really nice. I wanted just to comment really quick on a few things. Number one, this finish, which is often found on lounge chairs like Sealig lounge chairs, Kofod Larsen style Sealig lounge chairs, it's a thick finish, and if you've ever tried refinishing those, you understand you know what it's like. There always seems to be like 2 layers to get through, and you can kind of see, maybe the lighting's not great, but you can kind of see on the back there's some darker, richer areas, and then there's some sort of sun bleached looking areas. So it's cutting through to the raw walnut, but it has to get through like the top layers and then through, like, I guess the base layer, like the sealer layer. But when it does, it gets down to this beautiful walnut. So, and that side's done there too, and this side is all set as well. So now this is nice and clean. So what I'm doing is, and like I always recommend in the videos that we make, is take your time and really strip everything super clean. At this point, this is so nice and uniform. You could let this dry and just do a sponge sand really light and go right to finishing, versus being sloppy with the stripping process and then you know, needing to have to sand out certain areas, and then you get sanding marks in the grain when you're trying to get into these tight corners, and you just create more of a problem for yourself. So definitely take the time and just budget some of the typical sanding time into your stripping time. Just take a little extra time, relax, just kind of take it easy and slowly strip and get it nice and clean. So this is coming along really nicely. I'm down to the kind of that last little bit, that base layer, so this will be wrapped up pretty soon. All right guys, just wrapping this guy up. This is this has been one of my projects of the day today, just showing you QCS on this beautiful sofa frame. You can see now all the wood is really nice and bare. Went around, really did a thorough cleaning of it. I said this earlier, but the longer that you take sort of stripping and doing a nice job, the easier your tasks will be later on. So at this point, this is so clean that you really, once it dries, it's still drying a little bit, once it dries, you'll be able to just you know, just oil it or go right to finishing, lacquer, whatever it is that you want to apply to it. This definitely had a very thick finish, which is kind of the typical Danish, Scandinavian finish. A lot of that ceiling furniture is that, and it's really, really thick, so it took a lot longer than I anticipated and more product, but in the end, came out really. Just so you know, if you're interested in knowing kind of how much product and time this took, it soaked for a while. I probably put maybe 2 hours of labor into it, actual physical labor of scrubbing it and getting it nice and clean. Other than that, it was just more just being patient, letting it soak. And then as far as the product goes, this required more because it was that really thick conversion varnish finish that you find sometimes, and that just eats up the stripper. I mean, that's hard even for regular harsh chemical strippers. It's a very tough finish. So it took probably about 3 of the bottles roughly to do this, this whole sofa. Roughly, maybe 2.5, really depends, somewhere in that range, between 2 and 3 bottles. So but in the end, really nice outcome. So this is going to be a beautiful piece when it's all done. All right, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and if you want some QCS for your next project, head over to stripwell.com and go ahead and get some for yourself and make your next project go a little smoother and be a little safer. Thanks for watching.